Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. And joining me live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio, is my very good friend, Anna Little. Anna, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, hello there, Rick. How are we coming through here on location in Cleveland? Can you hear us?
Fine and dandy, as they used to say. You sound great.
That's great.
So, Anna, what's going on out there today, my friend?
Well, we have had quite a bit of excitement. We had the Attorney General from West Virginia address us at the New Jersey delegation at our breakfast briefing over at the Doubletree Hotel in Beechwood, Ohio. So that was very entertaining. And, you know, in true conservative form, Pat Morrissey is his name. He is a right-winger. He believes that attorneys general at the local level are not only the first line of offense, but the last line of defense against federal government overreach. And so that speech really kicked off our day. But I think I have our first guest walking up. He's coming to us from Michigan, and he is the Senate floor leader. So I'm going to see if I can't get him to step up so we can get started on that. Is that all right with you, Rick?
That's good. It's go with me, kiddo.
Okay, terrific. Senator, would you like to come on up? We can have you sit right next to me so we can get to this microphone. Bear with us, listeners, as we get situated.
Yeah, this is what you call live radio.
It sure is.
Live radio on the fly, almost like the roll of radio. But here we are.
Okay, you ready, Rick?
Go for it, Anna.
I can introduce our first guest, Senate Majority Floor Leader, Senator Mike Cowell of Michigan. He was first elected to the Michigan Senate in November of 2010, and he's now in his second term. He serves as the Majority Floor Leader, and he's in the Michigan House of Representatives from 1998 until 2002, and most recently was the supervisor of White Lake Township, and he's now the Vice Chair of the Commerce Committee and Oversight Committee. He serves as a member of Government Operations, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, Regulatory Reform Committees, and I know this introduction is going on a bit, but I think it's very significant that I explain to you that before joining the legislature, Senator Cowell was president of Accurate Woodworking, Inc., which is a family-owned business, and he served on White Lake Township's Planning Commission for 9 years. And as a Michigan native, he graduated from Henry Ford High School in Detroit, for you listeners from Michigan, and he later attended Oakland Community College, and he now lives in White Lake with his wife, Eileen Cowell, who currently is a county commissioner. They have 2 daughters, Marissa and Stephanie, a son-in-law, Tom, and a granddaughter, Madeline, and a grandson, Colin. So, Senator, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank
Senator
you.
Majority Floor Leader Mike Cowell of Michigan, welcome to Conservative Commandos Radio.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your time and allowing me on the air with you.
Well, the reason we invited you is because I happened to attend a Christian Coalition social event last evening, and you were a speaker at that event.
Right.
And your words really hit home with me. And I was very excited to hear the talk that you were giving. And I think you were focused a bit on energy and economic impacts of that. I want to give you an opportunity to tell our listeners what you were speaking about last night.
Well, we were talking a little bit about conservation of energy, and, you know, conservation is nothing new. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt did it. A lot of the other presidents were encouraging it. And that is really the true meaning of the word conservative, is to take care of what you have and don't waste what you have. And we had a couple other speakers there, and we were talking about, you know, whether we should be a drill baby drill or all the above as far as producing energy into the future. So there's a lot of new things coming up, a lot of new technology, and we don't need to close the door on any of them. We need to make sure that all the technology is looked at and used in a very conservative manner so that we don't waste. And above all, don't pollute air or water, because, you know, Michigan, Ohio, we sit on 2/3 of all the fresh, clean water on the planet. And I think we wouldn't be very good stewards of the land if we did things like let that get polluted.
Well, I I love what you're saying because I am actually the former mayor of a Jersey Shore town, so I understand exactly what you're talking about. And I'm a right-wing conservative, and the liberals in my blue state, they tend to brand me as one of those people that likes dirty water, that likes to pollute the air, that we like those gas-guzzling cars, that we just are not responsible with our resources, our natural resources, or anything else for that matter. And I just think that's just not true. And so to hear you speaking, it hit me home last evening. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you view as the benefits to your state in Michigan, as I know I have my thoughts about my state, New Jersey, and, you know, the benefits of, yes, conserving our natural resources, but not putting energy industry out of business either. How do we balance that?
Well, it's energy is jobs. And every industry that we talk about, whether it be, you know, our voice coming over the radio, whether it's steel manufacturing, cars, high tech, everything that we deal with, our schools, our churches, we all need energy to survive. I don't think we want to go back to the days of the pioneers where we're huddling in small rooms and cutting wood to create fires and keep ourselves warm. Although it does have some appeal to me sometimes, just to go off the grid completely.
Yeah, me too. Our family vacations are up in rustic Rockwood, Maine, so I'm with you.
Well, I go to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it's probably very similar to Rockwood, Maine.
Yeah.
But I get into the schools a lot, and I talk to the kids, and when I go in there, the teachers tell them, well, you know, Mike's a Republican. And the first thing out of their mouths is, you don't like clean air and clean water. So I have them, I said, grab a handful of clean air Republican and clean air Democrat and tell me which one's the difference. And they look at me and they go, well, that's pretty silly. There's no difference between, Republican air and Democratic air. And I said, absolutely not. I have 2 grandchildren at home, and I don't want them to have to breathe dirty air. I don't want them to deal with dirty water. And we had a real bad situation in Flint, Michigan, with the water situation. Right. But when you really burrow down into that, it wasn't the governor's fault, and it sure wasn't the legislature's fault. It was a Democratic-run city that for years and years and years just turned their back and didn't reinvest in their infrastructure. And that gets back to the conservative side. So we need to look at, to be conservative is also to invest in the infrastructure and to make sure that it's safe and clean and ready for the next generation. You can't just say it's built and walk away from it every 50 years and say, wow, there's a problem, and look for Washington to bail us out, because they can't get out of their own.
So you're a conservative, I'm a conservative. We both want clean air, we both want clean water.
Right.
We believe in maintaining and upgrading where necessary the infrastructure to make sure water is safe, or drinking water is safe. So I guess that liberal stereotype, it just kind of has to go out the window because it's just not true, right?
Well, it isn't true. I have more Republican friends and conservative friends in legislatures here in Michigan and around the country that we spend a great deal of our time worried about, clean water, especially in the Great Lakes Basin. For some of your listeners that are here, with what we have with the Great Lakes, there's nothing like this on the planet. And if you want to look at real liberalism and how it destroyed fresh water, there's several lakes in Russia that have been pumped dry and turned into cesspools that can no longer be used. There's freighters sitting out in the middle of what looks like a desert, which used to be 50, 60 feet of water that supplied fish and aquacultures and everything around it, including, the agriculture for crops. So, you have to take care of it. You can go back and, I revert back periodically to the Bible when it says, take care of what you have.
Yes.
Take care of what you have.
It's all a gift. It's all a gift, and you have to conserve it for the next generation. Now, you said something very poignant, and I want to go back to that. You said energy is jobs. Talk to us about that. I know Michigan, it's significant in Michigan.
Well, we're going through a whole energy redo now, looking at how we're going to get into the next generation. As we know, the Obama administration has declared war on coal. And there is such a thing as a way to burn coal in a clean manner. You don't have to do away with that entirely. And we see them shutting coal plants down in the state of Michigan and the surrounding areas. Well, as they shut these coal plants down, what's going to replace that generation? What's going to keep the prices down? how are we going to keep our jobs in our area, and not only our area, but like New Jersey and New York and upstate, up the eastern seaboard. Now the TVA has cheap electricity, but that was all highly government subsidized. It was built by the federal government during the Depression, and they're selling it at rates that nobody can even compete. So how do you rationalize that going into the future? You have to find better ways. In other words, we need to find a little bit better mousetrap. But if we don't do that, we're not going to have the ability to keep our jobs here. Michigan has created since 5 years ago when I came into office. Governor Snyder was there, and all the legislative people that I'm serving with. We had enough money in our state to run the state for 35 minutes. Governor Granholm depleted all our rainy day fund, which is basically our revolving fund. She didn't take care of what we left her. So now we have almost $500 million in that fund. We're on our way to getting $1 billion in it. We're not going to have to borrow from banks. We're going to be able to use our own money to do infrastructural projects and move forward into the next generation.
That's wonderful. Can you tell me, though, how did you do it? What was the nuts and bolts of getting that corrected? I mean, you really inherited a mess, and you were able to turn it around.
We inherited a nightmare, not a mess. So we had to do some pretty drastic cuts, and we did change the way we tax corporations. In some cases, the tax base went down. In some cases, because of the way that Governor Granholm put it together with the only tax that was done that way in the United States, nobody wanted to even copy it, not even California.
Yeah, it's nervous when it's new. Yeah, they don't trust.
That kind of tells you that if nobody else is copying it, it's not a good thing.
Right.
So we made some pretty drastic changes, and we attracted business. There's sometimes you can't cut your way out of a problem. You have to grow it.
I understand that.
So now, 6 years later, we have 450,000 brand new jobs.
Oh, wow.
I'm working on all the autonomous vehicle legislation now, which when the governor signed that back in 2013, that brought in about 200 brand new companies that were never in Michigan before. And they're now, doing research and development on connected and autonomous vehicles. And I think within a few years, we're going to be seeing some dramatic changes in the auto industry.
Well, this is just very exciting to listen to. Listeners, we are speaking with the Senate Majority Floor Leader, Mike Cowell of Michigan. He is talking to us about energy conservation and the fact that we right-wing conservatives actually do care about our environments, especially when we live in places where we have beautiful natural resources we want to conserve for next generations. But we understand that at the same time, the energy industry means jobs, and we have to make sure that we maintain those jobs. And I'm really excited to hear him talking to us about how he and his team actually inherited what he describes as a nightmare, but they were able to turn it around by using good conservative principles, not just cuts, but also growth to address those problems. So I'm excited and I'm energized to be speaking with you. So listeners, I want you to know that when we come out here to these conventions, the Republican National Convention, where we're on location right now in Cleveland, Ohio, these are the kinds of people you meet. You meet these conservative state senator, majority floor leaders that know what they're doing, and it's from the bottom up that we govern. And I'm excited right now about the platform at the Republican National Convention. I thought maybe you might have something to say about that, because they are actually in support of coal, which is something that you just spoke about.
We're in support of coal, and we're in support of doing it properly. And there's the old style way where there's a guy with a shovel putting in a boiler. That's not efficient. That's not being conservative. There's ways of pulverizing it and blowing it in through a vapor, and it burns hotter, cleaner, and doesn't use as much. And with all the scrubbers on the chimneys now, it's a whole different ballgame. There's different forms of energy being looked at. There's battery, which, batteries have gotten some bad press here as of lately. But going into the next generation of batteries, we're going to see where storage will become more efficient, where we can take wind and solar and store it, and then feed it back into the grid over longer, slower periods of time. You have to look at a battery like a big tank of water. You can fill it with a little garden hose. It'll take a really long time to get it charged up and filled up. And if you want to let it out and use a lot of electricity, you put a big hole in that tank and the water will come out really fast, and so will the energy. We're developing ways now to put little holes in it and learning how to use it as it comes out at a slower rate to make the batteries last longer and go farther. And it's still 20, 30 years away, but you can't give up on all the above. You have to keep working on it.
100% agree, because, I don't think that conservatives get a fair shake when it comes to these alternative energies. I don't think there's a conservative out there that I know that isn't in support of developing these alternative energy
I don't know any
sources.
either.
And yet the liberals will tell you that we want dirty coal, we want dirty air, and we don't want these alternative. No, what we don't want is the government to dictate that they happen right here, right now, when the market's not ready for it and the science hasn't caught up yet.
Right.
Is that right? Am I fair?
That's true. And in the legislation I'm doing for autonomous vehicles right now, we got the government out of the way completely. And we're letting the industry run at its own pace. And I said, I'm not going to set artificial deadlines and create problems for you to make you, in order for you to get X amount of money out of the government, which is always a mistake. Why don't you just run it at your own pace? When you're ready, come back and tell us. We'll catch up with you as far as legislation.
I think that's the way to do it. The people that are in these industries, they're the ones that want to conserve their jobs. They want to be profitable. They want to be successful. This idea from the liberal left that corporation owners or that energy producers are somehow corrupt. I mean, okay, have you had an oil spill once or twice in your history? Have you had some kind of a Superfund site that needed cleaning up? Yes, we can't deny that. But by and large, these corporations, they're very interested in turning a profit and having a sustainable business going forward. And if the resources are depleted, then their business goes away. So there has to be that balance. And, it sounds to me like in Michigan, at least through your leadership, the government gets it. And perhaps you're going to have some success. What do you think?
I think the success is coming. And I think within the next couple of years, you're going to see some things going on in Michigan, which is actually pretty exciting. Detroit, which has been, there and again, it was a mess for a lot of years. We have young people moving back in. They're excited. They're building downtown. There's people walking back downtown again. Well, we still have our issues, but it's on the mend. It's being repaired. It's coming around, just like Cleveland is. They're doing
right. I see that when we're here on site in Cleveland. I've seen a lot of improvement here in Cleveland, and especially in the preparations now for the Republican National Convention here in Cleveland. You can see they are showing us what they've accomplished. So
you can feel the energy in the city, and you can feel it in the people, and they're excited. If you want to feel real energy, come to the auto show in Detroit.
Oh,
for the red carpet auto show.
Yep.
A few years ago, when the auto industry was in the tank, people were looking at their shoes. The last couple of years, it's just been electric, absolutely electric. And there's people coming in from all over the world to look and see what Detroit's doing.
That's wonderful.
We're the only Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, kind of the center of the country where there's a lot of automotive industry and excitement. It's the only place in the world that you can sit down at the table with your 13-year-old daughter over a bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes and talk about the new car that's coming out that year. And it's just exciting. I've worked in China and Mexico and all over the world, and there's no place like here.
That's wonderful to hear. Well, Senate Majority Floor Leader Mike Cowell, thank you so much for spending time with us. Just as a close to the interview, do you have some comments about being here at the Republican National Convention? Is there some excitement for you, one of the speakers that you liked, or something in the platform that hits home?
I enjoyed listening to Mrs. Trump last night. She was exciting. There's a lot of pressure on her, and you could kind of see it in her eyes. It was her first time that she spoke at something like this, and her husband's putting a lot of pressure on her, but they make a good team, and I think they're going to be terrific. And she's electric. She cares about the right things, wants to help kids out, and I just think we're moving in the right direction. And we need to stop the Hillary machine. We don't
that's
need
for sure.
we don't need 8 more years of what we went through, because I don't think our Constitution, I mean, as strong as it is, we have to do something to make sure that this thing stays resilient. And it's a living, breathing document that's not convoluted and twisted and turned out of shape. So we're going to do everything we can to keep our Constitution as fresh and vibrant as the day it was written. And I just like to tell all your listeners, when you see the police on the street, give them a hug.
Yes.
We've lost a lot of police here in the last couple of months, and I ran a small police department in White Lake Township, Michigan, and I love those people that work there. And it's a very thin blue line that protects us, and they help keep all our constitutional rights.
That's right, they do.
Respect each other. Police absolutely respect the people, and the people need to respect the police. And, was that book, everything I learned, I need to know in life, I learned in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Just go right back to that.
That's right. Back to the basics. Stay with your values, and the rest of it falls into place. Senate Majority Floor Leader Mike Cole of Michigan, thank you so much for spending time with us on Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Listeners, check out Michigan. Apparently, the conservative leadership there is making a difference right at the state level, right on the ground in Detroit. We've got to make sure that we follow that and that we emulate that throughout the other cities, city by city, state by state, across the nation. Thank you again.
Thank you, and God bless you. Keep up the good work.
Okay. So there you have it, Rick. We've got Michigan on the mend, and we've really been enjoying listening to the Senate Majority Floor Leader of Michigan, Mike Cole. He's available on the internet. You can just Google his name. You can get all his background. And I would encourage you to set up for his email lists and do talk with him, because, he was a business owner. He's obviously been on the other end of business, where he's done that traveling, that international traveling that he's talked about. He's now with government. And when it comes to the environment and conservation and energy and jobs, he totally gets it. So let's keep our eyes on Senate Majority Floor Leader Mike Cole in Michigan, and let's see if we can't imitate that in our local governments, and let's see if we can't bring out some more of these leaders as we go forward.
Anna, thank you for that very interesting interview. I've spent some time out in Michigan, and a lot of people might think of Michigan as Detroit. It's kind of like New Jersey. A lot of people think of New Jersey just as an industrial area, but there are some very beautiful, wonderful areas in Michigan, especially in the northern peninsula of Michigan, right on Lake Superior. So, Anna, last night they had some terrific speeches. Any of those speeches resonate with you?
Well, I've got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the Benghazi duo, and I have to explain that because their speech is anything but enjoyable. I mean, it's the description of a horrific, frightful travesty, really, which resulted in the loss of 4 American lives, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. We remember who was in charge, don't we? Her name was Hillary Clinton. She had the Office of Secretary of State. She received repeated calls for help from the embassy, and she didn't respond. Barack Obama didn't respond. And finally, it was up to these military folks, militarily trained folks, who just could not stand down any longer, listening to those cries for help, which were going unheeded. And they tell their story. And, you're telling me you've got the audio that I sent you. I know it's just a little bit. It's just a short 1 minute and a little over 1 minute.
Right.
But,
so set it up for our audience, Anna. Who are the Benghazi duo, as you and I have been calling them all day?
Well, they are the military personnel that went in against orders, against the stand-down orders, to try to save the ambassador, to try to protect and defend the U.S. Embassy in Libya, in Benghazi. And most of them lost their lives. The 2 that are talking to you are the 2 left standing.
All right.
And they go into detail about what they went through, and I think you should play the audio as soon as you can, because that's about where it picks up.
All right, so what we're going to do, Anna, we're going to turn down your microphone so you and our audience can hear the the Benghazi duo. These were the two survivors from the Benghazi attack in Benghazi, Libya. John, play that for us.
The fire, you know, was a blast in our face. The smoke just obliterated our sight. It was so thick. We tried to get on our bellies to see underneath the smoke. No luck. A little while later, Tonto and DB came through the back gate. As they moved their way onto the consulate grounds, started searching. After a few minutes, Tonto went and helped the State Department guys gather up the classified information, get them ready to go in their armored vehicle, and all of a sudden we ended up getting a counter-assault. And at that time, instead of the State Department security agents jumping out and helping us defend their U.S. consulate, they took off, which left the 6 of us to defend the consulate. I got out, went up on the roof of the villa, made my way up to towards the back gate. The guy who initiated was with an RPG. On his third shot as he's coming out, as I came over the top of the parapet, I let loose on about a 10-round volley and he dropped.
All right, Anna, so those are the two survivors, and it is U.S. Marine Corps veterans Mark Oz Geist and John Tickman, and who fought the battle in Benghazi, speaking last night at the Republican National Convention.
Yes, that's true. And I will tell you, for me, it was the most moving of all presentations last evening because it reminded me, and it should remind you too, listeners, of what the leadership of Hillary Clinton results in, what the consequences of Hillary Clinton's leadership really are. 4 dead Americans, an ambassador, his crew, his team, the detail that was with him, and military personnel repeatedly calling for help, no answer, and they're ordered to stand down and just let it happen. That's the leadership that Hillary Clinton provided in Benghazi. And that's the leadership she'll provide from the White House if we, the people, allow her to get there. Mm-hmm. And it's up to us. We cannot allow that leadership to get into the White House. We've had enough laissez-faire leadership from the White House the last 8 years. It is resulting in a world that is on fire. The world is burning. We've got violence in our streets here in the United States. We can't abide it anymore. And sitting here at the Republican National Convention, listening to what I call the Benghazi duo, reminding us of what leadership we're looking at if we don't step up and win this race, it's really, really very humbling. It's humbling, and it's a call to action. Now, those men, they described their actions on that day. They describe it just like you and I describe it. We had breakfast for what we had for breakfast this morning. It's par for the course. It's the way they lived their lives. Mortar fire hitting them, arms hanging off. This is one of those fellas, I think it might have been Oz, had his arm hanging off, and his efforts were to try to get his arm to work because he knew he had colleagues in trouble and he had to defend them and he needed to shoot the gun and his hand wouldn't work. He wasn't worried about being hurt. He was worried about his hand not working. Yeah. And he was frustrated with the situation. These are men of courage. These are heroes. These are men of valor. We've got to give them a commander-in-chief who is worthy of them. That's what we need to do. And let me tell you, that's not Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely not.
That's not Hillary Clinton. I think Donald Trump has the opportunity to be worthy of these men of valor. He needs to talk the talk, he needs to walk the walk, and we the people need to hold him to it. And I'll tell you right now, Mike Pence, I know him a little better than I know Donald Trump. I know he's worthy of their valor. I know he has nothing but honor and respect for these men, and he will give them the tools they need. And if they call Mike Pence for help, they're going to get help. And anybody that crosses the United States of America, or the men we send into harm's way, or the diplomatic details that we send into harm's way, for the benefit not only of United States interests, but for peace and prosperity in the world, all of those people will find support and defense and protection under a Trump-Pence administration. They have not found that under an Obama administration, and they certainly have not found that under Secretary of State Clinton. Why would we think that an administration from the White House under the direction of Hillary Clinton would be any different on the world stage? We can't abide it.
Anna, what I've done is I have posted the entire speech last night, all 23 minutes of it, on the Conservative Commando's Facebook group page. So if any of our listeners would like to see Mark Oz Geist and John Tigan, what I will call the real heroes of the Battle of Benghazi, please go to our Conservative Commando's Facebook group page for that. And one of the speakers that resonated with me last night was Patricia Smith. She's the mother of Sean Smith, one of those unfortunate Americans that were victimized, I'll call it victimized, by Hillary Clinton. And what I'd like to do, Anna, is I would like to play that segment of Patricia Smith talking last night. Again, we'll turn down your microphone. We'll leave up your volume so you can hear it. And this is Patricia Smith, mother of Sean Smith.
I blame Hillary Clinton personally for the death of my son. That's personally. In an email to her daughter shortly after the attack, Hillary Clinton blamed it on terrorism. But when I saw Hillary Clinton, she sure is. She lied to me and then called me a liar. When I saw Hillary Clinton at Sean's coffin ceremony just days later, she looked me squarely in the eye and told me a video was responsible. Since then, I have repeatedly asked Hillary Clinton to explain to me the real reason why my son is dead. I'm still waiting. Whenever I call the State Department, no one would speak to me because they say I am not a member of the immediate family. Sean is my son. Hillary Clinton is a woman, a mother, and a grandmother of two. I am a woman, a mother, and a grandmother of two. How could she do this to me? How could she do this to any American family? Donald Trump is everything Hillary Clinton is not. He is blunt, direct, and strong. He speaks his mind and his heart. And when it comes to the threat posed by radical Islamic terrorism, he will not hesitate to kill the terrorists who threaten American lives. He will make America stronger, not weaker. This entire campaign comes down to a single question. If Hillary Clinton can't give us the truth, why should we give her the presidency? That's right, Hillary for prison. She deserves to be in stripes.
And there you go. That is Patricia Smith, the mother of Sean Smith, one of the 4 Americans that was killed in Benghazi. And as she said, if she cannot tell us the truth, why should we give her the presidency?
I agree.
Anna, but what shocked me is how Patricia Smith was treated by the mainstream media, in particular MSNBC. And what they said about Patricia Smith was appalling to me. One of their commentators said, how dare the Republicans stoop to this level by having Patricia Smith come on and talk about her dead son. Oh, the Democrats would never do that. Oh, but do you remember Code Pink, and a little? Do you remember? Do you remember that woman, that mother, that the liberals drove all over the country talking about her dead son? Oh, Democrats never do that. Only Republicans, right, Anna Little?
Yep, that's what they say.
So, Anna, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to play Chris Matthews and the other idiots at MSNBC running down Patricia Smith, mother of slain American Sean Smith.
I mean, it strikes me that 10, 15 minutes ago, we were talking about Bob Dole. We were talking about a very different time in American politics when there were adversaries as opposed to enemies. And you know, to say that the nominee of the other party should be in stripes should be in prison is
from the stage
kind
of
of
the
statement we're not used to hearing from the stage of a political convention.
And to pile onto that, this gross accusation that somehow Hillary Clinton had anything to do with the death of Chris Stevens, Ambassador. She had nothing to do with it. Even if all the arguments about the PR afterwards, as Gene pointed out, are true. Worst case scenario, she didn't give a straight story afterwards. That had nothing to do with the death of our great ambassador over there. I don't understand why the Republicans would choose to put this on primetime television when they have such wonderful stories of American heroism to speak to the American people. I think it was wrong. I don't care what that woman up there, the mother, has felt. Her emotions are her own. But for the country and choosing a leader, it's wrong to have someone come up there and tell a lie about Hillary Clinton. It's not true. It's logically not true. It's manifestly not true. She had anything to do in that case, even if all the arguments about what she said afterwards or Susan Rice said afterwards on Meet the Press are true. And anybody who thinks about it for a second knows it's not true. And I think it's wrong that they ruined their evening with this.
It's an interesting decision on the part of the Republican Party to go there with this first night, making it so focused, especially right up at the front of primetime on Benghazi. Obviously, what's happened in terms of investigating the Benghazi attack, investigating Hillary Clinton's potential culpability for the Benghazi attack, there's been almost nothing that's been more investigated in Washington.
All right, so Anna, there you go. That was Chris Matthews and Rachel Madcow, as I would call her, blasting the Republicans for putting Patricia Smith out in front of their convention. But they forget about what they did to Cindy Sheehan. Cindy Sheehan was the mother of Specialist Casey Sheehan, who was killed in the Iraq War. Oh, they ran her all over the country. They couldn't get her on enough outlets. And let's face it, Anna, Hillary Clinton is a liar. She lied about Benghazi. She lied about her emails. She lied about Fast and Furious. And she continues to lie to the American people. And I think it is incumbent upon everyone, you, me, the Republican Party, and whoever will listen, as to what a liar Hillary Clinton is.
I think that's true. I think some of the difficulty we have with Hillary Clinton is you can't tell when she's, you can't trust what she says.
Well, you can tell when she's a liar when her mouth is working. That's when you know she's lying.
Yeah, I mean, but the American people are onto that. When you go forward with the polling with regard to honesty and trustworthiness, that's what that poll means. The American people don't trust her, and with good reason, because she hasn't been truthful. And I think everybody's gotten that message. So how you can put someone that you don't trust and who doesn't tell the truth in the White House is beyond me. But apparently there are Democrats who think that they can do that and that that's okay. I would hope that even the majority of Democrats would see differently than that.
All right, and with that, let's take a short break to give you an opportunity to catch your breath. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little, coming to you live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Rick Trader, back in the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little, coming to you live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Rick Trader, and if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at 1 in the afternoon, please log on to roarradio.net at 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com, or midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com, or you can listen to our show at any time of the day by calling 832-999-1199. As I mentioned, I'm joined today by Anna Little. Anna is at the Republican Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. So, Anna, what do you expect to be happening tonight?
Having a little trouble hearing you, Rick. I don't know if you're having trouble hearing me. How are we doing?
I hear you fine.
Okay, good. And that was better the second time. So maybe it's, your proximity to your microphone. I don't know.
Okay.
Basically, we have been, today we have been hoping to get a heritage expert to come on. We've also been contacted by the scheduler for Congressman Mark Meadows. So we're waiting to see if he'll be joining us. We're also looking at a 4 o'clock possibility of David Bozell, who is a speaker from the floor of the convention. I think he may have spoken yesterday, although I don't have the schedule in front of me. So that's what we're looking forward to in the next coming half hour or so.
All right, David Bozell, he is with the, he is a frequent guest here on Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
I'm not hearing you so great, Rick. Sorry about that. Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. We're trying to adjust our microphones. You know, this is live radio.
Of course. I was doing it to you yesterday, so.
But other than that, things are good. So, what else is happening at the convention you'd like to talk about, Anna?
Yeah, well, I did want to talk a little bit about the convention because, you know, it's really quite the exciting experience, and I think it's been really undersold on the media what's going on here. I mean, we talk about democracy in action, but when you're on the ground here in Cleveland, Ohio, you're actually witnessing democracy in action, and that's what I think we need to underscore when we are talking about this convention. Here is where the rubber meets the road. Here is where we, the people, actually direct through our political parties what we want the government to do. And then it's the candidates that are sponsored by those parties that actually carry the voice of we, the people, through into elected office. So it's really been very expensive, very exciting to see this. And, you know, the government at this point is in flux because we've got an administration that clearly isn't getting the job done. And we've got two candidates that are running, one which is more of the same, and another which is actually going to take us in a completely different direction. And my hope, and the hope of, I think, all conservatives out there, is that this new administration that would take us in a totally different direction would actually set us back on course for being that great nation, that shining city on a hill that we have been in the past. And that's why we love the slogan, Make America Great Again. And of course, you've got to drill down on that. So yesterday we were talking about how to make America safe again. Mm-hmm. And that's when we started to talk about things. And that's why on the show we were talking about the violence in the streets, Black Lives Matter, the targeting of police officers in general, the targeting of white police officers in Dallas, what just has recently happened in Baton Rouge, the absence of leadership from the White House, which contributes to, if not causes, that violence and that unrest by not enforcing the law against these perpetrators, by not creating consequences for criminal activity. And then, of course, it escalates. And we had an expert on from Heritage talking to us about that. So that's really what's at stake in this election process. So, you know, it's really been quite an experience. Now, today, as we opened the show, I started to talk about the Attorney General of West Virginia, Pat Morrisey, and he was talking about how the states really can check the federal government, and that the attorney generals of these states are the first line of offense when the federal government overreaches, because it's up to those attorney generals to then file suit against the federal government when they overreach. But they're also the last line of defense in actually determining whether they're going to enforce those federal laws in the state jurisdiction. And Pat Morrisey really bundled it up very nicely for us. He's been here on the floor. I was on the floor in the convention hall last evening, and he was right next to the Jersey delegation. And we have a guest that's walking up, Rick. I'm going to interrupt myself, and we're going to introduce our next guest, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it, Anna.
Okay. Well, I'm speaking right now, or sitting across the desk from, we're going to use this microphone. Give us a second, listeners, to get ourselves situated. I am looking right now at Congressman Mark Meadows. I'm going to pull up his biography quickly so that we can give you an idea of who he is and what he's about. He's in North Carolina's 11th district. He was elected to Congress by the people of Western North Carolina in 2012 after a 27-year career as a small business owner. Well, he must know what he's doing if he's been a small business owner. That's what kind of people we want in government. During his time in Congress, he has championed fiscal responsibility, accountable government, pro-growth economic policies, pro-family and pro-life initiatives, and a strong national defense. He serves on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, where he chairs the Subcommittee on Government Operations, which has oversight jurisdiction over the federal agencies. Yes, we need oversight over the federal agencies, and the Executive Office of the President, the Postal Service, the Freedom of Information Act, and more. Congressman Mark Meadows, welcome to Conservative Commando's radio show.
It's great to be with you. Thanks so much. It's an honor to be here.
Well, we want you to get your reaction right out of the gate here on what you're seeing and hearing here on the ground in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Republican National Convention. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's a lot of excitement, some concern, obviously, but what we're really seeing is a coalition of people coming together and coalescing around a conservative message that you and your listeners each and every day understand all too well. It's a thing that affects moms and dads on Main Street, and we're starting to see that. And so as that conservative message continues to resonate, not only here in Cleveland, but hopefully across the country, we're looking forward to taking back 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and making sure that we rein in this out of control executive branch.
You know, we talked a little bit yesterday about the fact that there is just such violence and unrest. It's here domestically. We see it in the targeting of the police, the rioting in the streets. It's not one city. It's pretty much nationwide. I mean, it's not everywhere, but it's somewhere in each region of the nation. We've also talked a little bit about international affairs and how, you know, the rise of ISIS, the violence, it's just the coup in Turkey. I mean, we've just got instability everywhere. And we've talked about how perhaps it's the absence of leadership by the present occupant of the White House, President Obama and his administration, that may be actually causing this, certainly tolerating it, but perhaps causing this. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I can tell you that it is all about leadership. It's not perhaps. It's all about leadership. And some suggest that this president and indeed Secretary Clinton led from behind. Well, you have to be able to lead to even lead from behind. And so I would suggest that it is more of a passive way to allow things to happen around you, to take credit for the good things, and to blame the bad things on other people. That's not leadership. And so what we see with the rise of not only ISIS, but a number of the foreign policy failures across the world is that we've had a Secretary of State, Secretary Clinton, who chalked up a lot of frequent flyer miles, but didn't do a whole lot in terms of foreign policy. And so that is coming home here nationally and on our streets across the country. We have to really stand up and say that we support our law enforcement officers in the rule of law. Here's the interesting aspect. When you start to pick and choose the laws that you enforce, this is the natural progression that you have. You have people not respecting those who are really hired to enforce the laws because we're not sure which laws they're to enforce if we have an administration that's picking and choosing. And so I think it's all about leadership. It's all about the kind of environment that's been set. And it's time that we change it.
Well, thank God for hearing that from your lips. Now, you're sitting in Congress. We have the liberal media saying we've got a do-nothing Congress. I know we the people took back the House of Representatives. We the people took back the Senate. We have Republican majorities in both places. The guy in the White House won't sign the laws. Do you want to comment on what it's like to be in a Congress like that?
Well, it's very frustrating when you have that. But I would go a little bit further and not suggest that we're totally not at fault in the Congress as well. Because we, the people, did speak. And what I hear from a number of the people who have elected me and others like me is said, we put you in charge. We expect things to get done. Don't start blaming it on someone else. And so it's up to not only Republicans and Democrats, but all of us to make sure that those conservative solutions get implemented. And if we don't, we all need to go home and find someone else who will, because it's critical that we make sure that the members of Congress represent we the people.
Well, that is exactly the message that Conservative Commando's listeners are trying to get out, and that's why we have you on the show today. So we've talked a little bit about Congress. We've talked a little bit about Hillary Clinton. Let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump. Now,
sure.
You were a small business owner.
Right.
Perhaps you can start with a couple of comments about what brought you into government and what you draw from in your past experience when you're doing your job in government, and how that might relate to Donald Trump.
Well, I think as a business guy, what we look at for our results, it's real easy to talk the talk, but it's much harder to walk the walk. And when you're signing on the front of a paycheck, when you have to make payroll, you understand the risks that go along with that, and really the way that you have to make sure that you plan ahead. There's two ways things get done in Washington, D.C., slow and never. And if we remember that, it is time that we actually speed up that process, start to get things done on behalf of the American people. And as a business guy, I can tell you that not only myself but Donald Trump alike will look at real results and truly judge it on the bottom line. Because if it's not providing a return, it's time that we do something different.
Well, that's exciting to me because, it is about the bottom line for every American who's trying to make the money in the month.
It is.
And I do go back to the economics. It's the first thing you think about when you're dealing with your family. Can I put food on the table? Can I provide good medical care? Can I get my kids the education they're supposed to have? Can I take care of my mom and dad as they get older? These are the things on the minds of the American people. And when they send their representatives to Congress, often those representatives forget what it's like to live that way because they're running all the time. And
right.
We do understand to an extent that your lifestyle changes when you have to do that job. But we want our voices to be heard. So it's great to hear that you still have that touch for it.
It's what I'm all about. So that's
thank
what
God.
we need to do. Yeah.
Thank God. So let's talk a little bit about this Republican National Convention. We had 17 people on a stage not very long ago.
Right.
And they had to, I hate to say it, but beat each other up to come up with one fella,
right,
Donald J. Trump, who's going to lead us through this election cycle, which is, the way I look at it, almost over.
Right,
As it's
right.
begun, it's almost over.
Right.
So we've got to figure out how to unify after that. And I know that it's actually encouraging to me to hear some of the rhetoric that I'm hearing from delegates that I speak with who are on the floor about not tolerating any more division. But I'm wondering what your take is on it as Congressman.
I think we have to really unify around a set of principles that have been unifying for the ages. And those are those conservative principles that not only put our country, our God, and our family first. Right. But when we look at those things, if we're truly willing to set with those examples and those set of parameters, it makes everything else fall in line. I was someone who endorsed one of those other candidates other than our...
I liked another guy too, so there you go.
So when you have that, I think the other aspect is that when we unify around a set of principles, ultimately what we see is those principles work for not only those who are in Washington, D.C., but those that are on Main Street. And when you look at it, one set of rules, whether you know someone or you don't know anyone, that's what it's all about. Special favors for Hillary Clinton or people in Washington, D.C. need to be done away with. And it's that double standard that people are tired of, and quite frankly, they're appalled by it.
Let's talk for one brief moment about Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
She was Secretary of State during the era of Benghazi.
Right.
I was really struck, we were just talking about that on the show, by the presentation by the two gentlemen. I call them the Benghazi duo.
Right.
Terrible, terrible story, delivered like matter of fact, like it's like we breathe. That's how they be. It's, oh, what a story. But we have to remember she was in charge at that time.
Right.
She received calls for help, not once, not twice, but repeatedly.
Right.
Not just from the ambassador, not just from the detail that was with him, but from military-trained personnel who were watching what was going on, saying, let us help, send us in, and they were told to stand down. What happens if that woman makes it to the White House?
You know, I think all Americans should be concerned about not only what we saw at Benghazi, but the fact that it is not just an isolated incident. It is the whole thought of leaving Americans behind and not taking our enemy seriously is something that is systemic within the Secretary Clinton's reign as Secretary of State, but also within this administration. And I can tell you, having served on a number of committees that looked into the Benghazi issue before there was a select committee, having looked at classified information, having also got into the nitty-gritty of who did what, it's appalling the inaction. You know, it's one thing if you take an action and it was the wrong action, but when you take no action at all and lives are lost, shame on us. We can do better. We must do better. And I believe that the Trump-Pence ticket will do better.
I'm with you there. So let's talk a little bit about you. Here you are serving the 11th District of North Carolina. You're in the Congress. I was looking at some of the laws that you've sponsored and co-sponsored. And what are you promoting right now? What can we do to help you? How can we support you?
You're very kind. I think I serve on the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and that is probably it's a target-rich environment. There's a lot of things to go after. We'll be producing a few reports in the coming days that will really look at our national security issue as well as some of the other issues surrounding really the Clinton emails, Clinton Foundation. As we start to look at some of those issues, we need to shine a light on what is wrong.
Of course.
And so your listeners could actually be a real encouragement. Pray for us. You know, I'm a man of prayer. I believe the power of prayer
We promote prayer here on this show.
So if you'll just be praying that we have the discernment and the wisdom to know where to invest our efforts to make sure that our government is accountable, it'll serve us well.
And Conservative Commandos is ready to receive information from you and get it out on the airwaves ourselves, have you back. We can have you call in for future interviews. We'll make sure that we get the word out so that we can be of assistance to you and people can call, for support for you.
We would love to come back and we'll call in. Thank you for what you do. Thank your listeners for being great patriots for our country.
Okay, well, thank you. Congressman Mark Meadows, North Carolina's 11th District. Thank you so much for spending time with us on Conservative Commandos radio show today.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Keep up the great work.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. Anna is coming to you live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm back here, I guess you could call this the anchor desk. I'll make myself real important today, calling it the anchor desk. Back at the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia. So, Anna, do we need a little break now? Do you need a little time, or do you want to continue on?
I have just had a guest walk up. If you just give me a moment, we'll get situated, okay?
All right. So you do that, and in the meantime, let me just say that if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or log on to, at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com, or midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com, or you can hear our show anytime of the day from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Anna, is our guest ready?
You're having trouble hearing you, Rick. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is our guest ready?
Okay, terrific. We're going to go forward then and introduce our next guest, David Bozell, president of For America. That's F-O-R America. It's the largest of its kind award-winning national grassroots organization championing American exceptionalism. For America, F-O-R America, with its 9 million member army, that's 9 million members, is dedicated to freedom, prosperity, and virtue in all public policy debates. David regularly appears in print and on broadcast as a conservative pundit, as well as an expert on the intersection of social media and politics. We definitely want to talk to you about the role of social media in this 2016 election. David Bozell, welcome to Conservative Commandos Radio.
Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing in Cleveland?
Well, yeah, it's treating us well. We're actually very excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to the energy coming from Cleveland, the Republican National Convention, to propel us forward, to put a new occupant in the White House, not more of the same. So talk to us about how social media can help us get there.
Well, I tell you, it has been, we kind of saw Trump coming a mile away. The enthusiasm, not just on our platforms, but on Trump's platforms as well. He has really utilized social media unlike any other candidate in recent memory, even better than Obama. And he who wins his era's tools usually wins the election. So he understands the value, not just in the dollars and cents, not just because Facebook's free or Twitter's free, and I put that in air quotes, it's not. But he understands that keeping your base enthusiastic on these platforms is crucial. And he's been doing it very, very well for the better part of 12 months now, ever since he got it. And same thing with For America. 9 million social media followers across all these multiple platforms, including 7.9 or so on Facebook itself. So it's an enthusiastic group. We can shut down congressional phone lines and move legislation whenever we want to. So it's a real fun place to be, and we're super proud of it.
Well, that's great. Well, I didn't grow up with social media. I'm one of those older ladies that I use Facebook, for the photographs. You like to get your kids and your nieces and your nephews, and we've got family that lives in different. So we use it that way. And in the course of my campaigns, I've had people who were working with me who knew a little bit more about it than I did, and we dabbled in it. Right. So talk to us. If say you've got an issue that you want to promote, or you've got a candidate that you want to promote, and you need to get the word out. Sure. You need to get out the vote. You need to do that grassroots, door to door, but you want to use the internet and social media to do it. What's a first step?
Well, the first step is understanding that this is not the Federalist Papers that you're selling. Okay.
I do hear you on that.
As much as we'd like it to be. That stuff does not sell. You're talking short, pithy messages, images, videos.
Hashtags,
140 characters. Sometimes the videos are terribly unsuccessful at 30 seconds, but wildly successful at 12, oddly. But here's why it's so critical in today's communication stream. Only social media provides that critical peer-to-peer endorsement model that folks rely on nowadays. In other words, who do you trust in life? You trust your friends. You trust your family.
Your neighbor,
right?
yeah.
Your neighbor. You sure as heck don't trust politicians. You definitely don't trust the big bad bullies in the liberal media, on television media. You trust your friends. You trust your family. Social media enables people to send a conservative message to your own network. Half of our stuff is seen by our fans. The other half is seen by their friends. So our fans are sharing our stuff with their networks, and that's the beauty of it. The believability rate goes that much higher. If Ford Motor Company were to drop an ad into Radio Row right now, 14% of everybody here would believe it. But if that very same advertisement came to us via a friend of ours, that believability rate goes up to 78%. So it's a simple marketing proposition. Who do you trust in life? Obama tapped into this. Trump is tapping into this, and he's going to need it. He's going to need every single vote he can find.
Well, that's true. I mean, everybody thinks here that we've got a billionaire running for office. Right. You know, do we need to donate money? He's got more money than I've got. Why would I need to donate money?
And he doesn't want to spend $1 billion. And you know what?
Even if he did,
I want to
though,
see him win without spending all this money.
True, and I
really do. I don't even know. Even if they were left wing, well, I don't want to go that far, but I'd like to see somebody win an election without having to spend $1, $2, $3 billion. The 2020 race is projected to cost $7 billion.
Yeah.
The prospective candidate.
Yeah, and politics wasn't meant for. I don't think the founders could have conceived that.
I know.
You know, so and of course, you have to spend some money.
Right.
I mean, we all understand that. I've
Sure.
run for office before.
Sure.
You have to spend some money.
Sure.
You cannot just walk around and say, "Hey, vote for me," and expect everybody else to carry your
You
message.
got to have a staff so you can double check speeches that are written by potential first ladies. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, if we want to use social media to benefit Donald Trump, say we're not on his payroll, but we're supporters, and we really would like to get the message out about what he brings to the table, how should we be guided? I mean, there's so much to talk about.
Sure.
We need to
There's a lot
focus
of
somehow,
fodder.
you know?
Well, there's a couple things you can do. If you're on these platforms, become a fan of his and take his message that he's doing and share it with your network.
So, in other words, take the lead from the campaign, retweet, repost,
Exactly.
share,
Exactly.
whatever they're putting out. Okay,
There's
great.
a lot of that.
How about
or
when I
share
wanna-
with your own networks about why you're going to go vote for him.
There we go.
Okay?
There's the personal touch.
Or why you're not going to go vote for the other one. Again, peer-to-peer endorsement. Now, it's more what's the word I'm looking for? With women, it's just more effective in the sense that us guys, human nature being what it is, we think we can convince anybody of anything. Okay, women subscribe to peer-to-peer endorsement much more than men do. Plus, women are statistically more in charge of the family checkbook, and they're engaged on these issues. 9 out of every 10 self-identified soccer moms are on Facebook every single day, which is why the president
taking pictures of those soccer players.
Well, when he was in his re-elect campaign, nearly every single social media message began with, "Please share this with the women in your life." So the binders full of women. But Mitt Romney became the most popular slogan of the 2012 race. Why? Because Obama made it so on the internet. And made it to a popular attack line on the internet, and it caught fire on the internet. So those are the little things, but vitally important things, and they're free. And you don't have to leave your couch. The kind of things that you can do to help them out.
That's wonderful. I'm looking now at your website. It's foramerica.org, FORAmerica.org. And I'm looking at the About section. I just want to read a little bit of this for our listeners who may not have the smartphone handy, may be driving in the car, who knows. Okay, it says, in the political battlefield, we conservatives are outnumbered and being hit on both flanks. I do agree with that, by the way. The radical left is massively funded, has managed to capture complete institutions on the American scene. Academia, true. Entertainment, Hollywood, for sure. The unions, yep, we know about that. And the media, okay. But now conservatives are also under attack from the moderate wing of the Republican Party. Well, we definitely know that. We just kind of won that battle, I hope, in part with the platform committee here at the Republican National Convention being one of the more conservative platforms. But, we always have to hold their feet to the fire because the moderates always want to be conciliatory and we lose ground. So, it seems like that if we're going to meet and defeat those challenges, that I'm still reading from your About section, and begin the work of capturing the political narrative. That's the language I like, capturing the political narrative. I think that's what you've been talking to us about.
Well, look what's going on today.
Let's get the message out there.
Look what's going on today. The campaign seems totally on defense. Melania Trump gave a fabulous speech last night, and she was. It was the innocence, with the way she when she says, I became citizens, plural. It was just there was an innocence about it.
Absolutely.
And
she's
the
a
media
real person.
Just tried to destroy her for the last 12 hours. Every single network here. I was on the floor last night.
How dare they pick on a woman like that? How dare they?
Reporter is trying to drive a wedge between one delegate and the next. Every single one. What the RNC needs to do is stop kissing these networks' tails and rear ends. When you have social media, this is what Trump has, I think, tried to instill in these guys. Or he's just going to have to just sort of muscle through it. Use these platforms to your advantage to get your army of voters enthusiastic for you. He doesn't need polls. Why? He goes to his Twitter account and sees what's popular. That's why he doesn't pay pollsters. Okay? That's why he doesn't need speechwriters. That's why he has a finger on the pulse. Because he's authentic on these platforms and he's answerable to them.
And so is his wife. And as a conservative woman and a mother of children, I'm just going to have a couple of words since you brought it up, okay? I always tell my girls are pretty, they are intelligent, they are well-spoken, and extremely intimidating because of that. And let me tell you, Mrs. Trump, and I give her Mrs. because that's respect, Mrs. Trump is gorgeous, intelligent, well-spoken, and very intimidating to the left. Extremely intimidating to the left.
Those 5 languages fluently.
Oh, my goodness.
She could have done that speech. She could have done that speech in what's Slovenia's native tongue?
I don't even know. Slavic language.
Slavic. The press would still be trying to figure out, if there was some issue of plagiarism.
And what I tell my girls, when the bullying begins, and that's exactly what has been going on for 12 hours.
Right.
Okay? It's the old mean girls bullying attacks.
Right.
What I say to my girls is hold your head high. Because if you've got their attention and it's focused on you, you're doing something right.
Somebody within the upper stratosphere of the Republican National Committee found that language, drafted it for her, or said, hey, this is something that Michelle Obama used. And maybe this might work for you, and it just did not get cut out of the draft process. And instead of just owning it, the RNC's been on defense all day long. Instead of just owning up to the mistake.
There's no need to defend. This is what I tell my girls when they go through this.
I've seen these guys.
The strategy is wrong. Yeah.
Instead of just saying, we're moving on. This is our convention. We're going to control the message. We're going to control the narrative. Debbie Wasserman-Schultz can go on whatever Timbuktu network that has no viewers all day long. Why feel the need to respond to her?
Don't continue the narrative. Change the narrative. Own the messaging. I agree with that.
Be on offense all the time.
So what can we do? Listen, we all have social media at our fingertips right now.
Get on these platforms.
As a matter of fact, I'm kind of social media broadcasting right now using Skype and talking to Rick with typing while we're having our interview. So I get the whole... It's right here. It's right now. It's at our fingertips. If a listener wants to do something in response to the attacks on Melania Trump today, this minute, what should we do?
Well, show the Trump family some love. Tweet at Donald Trump. Tweet at Melania Trump. Show that you've noticed the attacks. They appreciate that stuff. Believe me, they are watching.
They're real people, folks.
They are watching their platforms, okay? And then tell the RNC, start tweeting at the RNC, say, stop being on your heels.
Stop being on defense.
Stop being on defense. Get back to the narrative at hand, okay? Putting America back to work. Making America safe again, get back to those narratives, and get off defense. And I think that'd be a great place to start. If you're
I agree with you there. And I think when we receive a personal attack, and what's going on right now, focused at Melania Trump, it's a personal attack.
It is.
They're trying to tear down the person.
Right.
They're trying to get to her, whatever insecurities may exist, we all have them, and rip her apart, basically. And if they're doing that, it's because they can't respond to your message.
Understand where Donald's coming from. Donald's obviously upset. That news has broke for his wife and for his family. I think he probably thought, much like a lot of nominees think, that he would get a fair shot with the press because he's a New Yorker. Okay, I think he's figuring out that that's not going to happen. The other part is, why is the RNC so interested in hobnobbing with the networks that are out to destroy them?
Right.
Okay. Be answerable to the voters that put you in this position right now in Cleveland that have Donald Trump as the nominee. Go answer to them. Go assure them that we're moving on. We're going to have a great convention. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. I like to see her maybe do an interview, just sort of laugh it off. I think that would be a good thing to do. That's one of the reasons why this has gone on all day long. You haven't heard from her.
They both need to come out. But you know what? I think in explanation for Donald's position, I mean, he's the one running for president.
Yeah.
She is 100% in his corner.
Sure.
But she stood in front and took the bullets last night.
Right.
And that's hard for a man to watch.
Yes.
Especially when you love your wife.
Good point.
And I think this 18 years together, that's, so they've got to react. Look, you got real people here stepping up to run for office, and they got to adjust. They got to realize that they're not Kansas anymore, and the Sharks are on the attack.
Notice I thought the best speeches, I don't know about you guys, I thought the best speeches last night were all outsiders.
Yes.
Melania's, Scott Baio's, Phil Roberts' sons, the parents of the illegal immigrants. Okay?
Victims of the illegal immigrant criminals.
Parents there. All the outsider speeches were much better than if I may say, than your elected official, especially at the federal office.
Hey, Anna, this is Rick back at the studio. If you can hear me, ask David what he thought of Rudy Giuliani's speech.
This is the year of the outsider. Double down on that theme. You don't need to be defensive about Melania. It happened. Some intern goof. Move on. Own it. And get on with your convention, and it'll be fine.
My producer, Rick Trader, just chimed in. He'd like you to comment on Rudy Giuliani's speech last night.
Guys, I was there. When in person, it's a lot better.
Okay.
I saw a replay of it on television. It just didn't come off as well on television. He looked angry on television. In the hall, the crowd was on fire.
Right.
And it was one of the better speeches. But on TV, I could see how you may have been taken aback by it.
Okay.
If that's if maybe perhaps that's been the response. I don't know, but in the hall it was great. On television, it kind of came out differently.
Yeah, well, it does change. The impression of a person's facial expressions and everything has changed too by lighting and the camera and all of that. Right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about For America, because we really have been getting an awful lot of direction from you, and I appreciate it very much as to what we should be doing in our everyday lives. But talk to me about your organization and what we can do to help you.
Well, foramerica.org. There's join buttons all there, or facebook.com/foramerica, or @foramerica if you're on Twitter. We just did a Facebook Live interview with Daryl Glenn, who I think is the new rock star within the movement, winner of the Colorado primary, Senate primary. So we're going to endorse him. Go help him out.
Awesome.
So just join up on the platforms, and there's join buttons, donate buttons, all those things that you can look for. But the more the merrier. I mean, this is, if we're all going to just sort of hide out in our basements and hope this all ends, quietly, it's just not going to. We got to get involved.
Well, I like that because, I'm a grassroots campaigner myself. My involvement in politics has always been with the grassroots. And I can remember saying to supporters of mine, get off the couch, stop throwing your shoe at the television set, put on a pair of sneakers and come on walk with me. Social media is the new door-to-door.
The audience, our audience is great. It is, there's a healthy Trump contingent, and there's a healthy non-Trump contingent. And it's a healthy discussion every single day, and it's fun. And so,
as long as you pull the lever for Trump in the end, you can criticize him all you want, but you better vote for him, because if you're not voting for Trump in this election, you're helping Hillary Clinton.
He'll need every vote he can get.
That's right. Sure. That's right. We can certainly argue after he's in office about your issues and positioning people and all of that stuff in the cabinet, but
just like Mike Pence too.
Let me tell you, Mike Pence, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about him. I trust him. Trust him very deeply.
And let's just say that Donald Trump doesn't want to do this again in 4 years. Mike Pence is in a position where a number of conservatives wanted him to be 4 years ago.
Right.
When a lot of us tried to convince him to do this 4 years ago, and then 4 years before that. So here he is with a real unique opportunity where I think there's a better than 50-50 shot that Trump doesn't do this again.
Right.
Running for president is
not fun.
And I don't think he wants to put his wife through this again. So let's just say he does win and accomplishes a lot in his first term. I can see him saying, okay, I've done my bit.
Pass the torch. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my tower.
Yeah.
and my golf.
My golf, yep.
That's right. So.
Well, it has been a terrific pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Dave Bozell at For America, FOR America, and foramerica.org, FORAmerica.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything you guys do. Appreciate it. You guys are the best.
Come see us again soon.
We'll do.
Okay. That's it, Rick. We were speaking with David Bozell of foramerica.org, FORAmerica.org. Social media is the new grassroots campaigning, and we have got to get Donald Trump elected. And I am hoping, Rick, that you will give me a chance to swallow some water over here, as I need to wet my whistle if I'm going to keep talking. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, what we'll do, Anna, is we'll take a quick break and we'll be back with you in about 2 minutes. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little, coming to you live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Rick Trader at the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. We are everywhere, and Anna and I will be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm joined today by Anna Little, who's coming to you live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm back in the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, please check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. Or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com. Or you can hear our show from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. And how'd that water go down?
Having trouble hearing you again, Rick. Not sure what that's about, babe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Can you hear me? All right.
That's better.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to be speaking, I hope, with Sarah Chamberlain soon.
Okay.
She's with Republican Main Street Partnership, and I think she's just had a women's event, a women-to-women conversation tour. Her most recent one has been right here in Cleveland, Ohio. So when she finishes up an interview, she's going to be walking up to speak with us. So I'll be looking forward to introducing her soon.
Okay. And Anna, tonight's the big night. I guess that tonight is the night the Republicans nominate Donald Trump.
Again, I'm having trouble hearing you, Rick.
Yeah, Anna, what is happening? It seems like your volume goes up and then you have a hard time hearing me.
Maybe. Not sure about that.
All right, well, what about now? How's it sound now?
You're okay now.
All right. Okay, to repeat, maybe you heard what I said or not. I believe tonight is the night the Republicans nominate Donald Trump.
Well.
All right, John, you know what? Let's do this. Let's disconnect Anna for right now and let's try to reconnect, all right? So call Anna back there. By the way, this is live radio for our friends out there. All right, Anna, do you hear us now?
That's much better. Maybe it was Skype.
Well, it could be. We'll blame it on Skype this time. But Anna, the message that I was trying to get through to you, and we appreciate our audience being patient with us. This is live radio here. But tonight's the night that the Republicans nominate Donald Trump.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, tonight the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie, will be downstairs. He will be speaking on the floor at the convention, and he will be speaking just before the Trump family. So that's the prominence. And I have to say, the New Jersey delegation has prime seats in the House, right next to New York, right, a stone's throw from the stage. I was down on the floor with them last evening, and it really is terrific to be sitting that close to the stage, to see the speakers up close and personal. It does add to the excitement of the experience. I don't think there's a bad seat in the House, don't get me wrong,
right.
But there is something to be said for sitting right up there by the stage. And I do believe it's going to be prime seating for the New Jersey delegation and the New York delegation for Trump's nomination this evening, and then they're going to have a joint event after that. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Anna, last night as I was watching Donald Trump's wife, my thoughts was, she is an incredibly beautiful lady. Is she as beautiful in person as she is on TV?
She's absolutely gorgeous. But when we talk about women, too often we focus on their appearance. And, our appearance, of course, is important.
Oh, well, Anna, what I was getting at.
What is striking about Melania Trump is not only is she beautiful on the outside, but she is a loving, caring person on the inside.
Well, Anna, what I was going to get at is this. I know I'm a heck of a lot older than you, and I can remember Jackie Kennedy very well. And I think that Melania Trump would be a first lady on the same level as a Jackie Kennedy, as far as looks, grace, and appeal to the public.
Yes, I do agree that you can compare Jackie Kennedy to Melania Trump. I do agree with that. I think that even more importantly, you should take a look at the fact that she is an internationally experienced person. She has experienced the type of government that we are heading toward, and knows to counsel her husband away from that. She's a linguist. She can speak many international languages. I think when she travels as First Lady, she's going to be able to speak without an interpreter to many people. I think she is gracious. I think she is a beautiful host. She makes people feel warm and welcome, and she respects people, the things we have in common, their differences, but she is so intelligent that she will stay focused on her message and the goals that she and her husband are trying to achieve. I think that Donald and Melania Trump will be terrific partners in the White House, and I think they will take the will of the people forward, not only domestically in the United States of America, but internationally on the global stage as well.
I can remember well when Jackie Kennedy was First Lady, and she and Jack went to Paris, and she took Paris by storm. I just wonder what the reaction in Europe will be to a First Lady of the United States being a European. John, I think we lost Anna again.
I'm right here, Rick. I'm waiting for Sarah Chamberlain. She's just gotten free, and we're a little distracted because of that.
That's all right.
And we just we moved out of our booth because Tony Perkins is setting up, so we're going to have Sarah Chamberlain join us just momentarily.
All right. And I'll repeat, and I'm not sure that you heard what I was talking about. I wonder if there's going to be any kind of a reaction from Europeans about Mrs. Trump being a former European. I wonder how that's going to play over in Europe.
I do think it's going to play in Europe very well, and I do think that she knows the differences between the different forms of government, and I think she's going to be a terrific carrier of the American message of how to do things better. And so I hope that she becomes the First Lady. I'm going to work for her to become the First Lady. But right now, we have got Sarah Chamberlain with us. I'm going to try to do a quick, very light introduction, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. She's working with Main Street Partnership, and she has just done a women-to-women conversation tour, the latest of which has happened here in Cleveland, Ohio. Sarah Chamberlain, thank you very much for joining us with Conservative Commandos Radio. Please take a moment to give yourself a little better introduction than what I just did.
Well, thanks for having me. I am the president of the Republican Main Street Partnership, which is a group of 72 members of Congress in the House and the Senate. And I also, on the side, run what's called the Woman to Woman Tour, because we wanted to travel the country talking to women, learning their issues, which, by the way, all issues are women's issues, and come back and pass legislation that they really affects their lives.
I think that's wonderful. Now, being a conservative woman, I really get frustrated when I hear liberal women tell us that the Liberal Party, the Democratic Party, is the party of the women, and that we on the Republican side are waging some kind of war on women. I've got to tell you, as a conservative woman, I have felt nothing but encouraged, protected, respected, revered. I feel very much that this representation by the liberals is completely off base. What can we do about changing that message? I'm a Republican woman. I'm a conservative woman. I want to change that message.
Well, I think the way we begin to change it is to go out and talk to women across the country and let them understand that that's just rhetoric. That is not at all what's happening. Actually, one example of that is that the Main Street Partnership Tour, the women travel around, the men can't wait for us to come back and tell them what we've learned from these women, and then they help us pass legislation. I could not be the president of a large Republican organization if there was a war on women.
That's absolutely true, and I could not have held local office if there was, as a Republican, if there was a war on women. I held office as a councilwoman. I held office as a freeholder, which is our county level, county commissioner, county alderman, whatever you call it, state to state. And then I was able to go back and be mayor of my town, and I've also run for Congress twice. So I don't see a war on women over here on the right. I just don't see it.
I don't either. We would see it. Yeah. With two people that would really impact us, and it's not out there at all.
So tell us a little bit about your women-to-women conversation tour.
Well, what we've learned, we travel around the country talking to women, finding out what their issues are, and then we come back and we pass legislation that directly affects them, such as mental health, opioid addiction, 21st Century Cures, which is a medical, helping them advance the research on Alzheimer's and diabetes. And again, we bring them back, we get their ideas, we bring them back to the men of Main Street. We all work together to make this legislation happen, and we're very proud that we passed all 3 of those issues this year.
And I understand from looking at the Facebook page that you've actually had a conversation here in Cleveland, Ohio. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing here in Cleveland.
Yeah, it was great. We had over 200 women on Monday morning, and what we focused on was issues both on the federal and the state level. We were very pleased that Lieutenant Governor of Ohio joined us, and we were able to talk about what's being done on both the federal and the state level on issues such as infrastructure, which is building your bridges, fixing potholes, basic things like that. And then, of course, from the federal and the state level on opioid addiction and mental health. And then really just talk to them about the fact that there is not a war on women, that unfortunately the media keeps trying to make it a war on women. And all 5 of us sitting there up on the stage realized that there is no war on women. So we did talk a little bit about that.
I want to talk a little bit about addiction because we know that we have an epidemic. We really do. Yep. There's prescription drugs available, obviously, in the households. Sometimes it's the women that are suffering. Lots of times it's our kids. But it is an issue that I know many women are concerned about right now. And it's not as easy to enforce because the drugs are not technically illegal because they're prescribed and dispensed by the pharmacist according to doctor's orders. Once they're in the household, that's where the difficulty occurs. It is, obviously easy on a traffic stop. If someone's carrying it, they don't have the proper label. There is a law that will cover that, get you into investigating whose drugs are you carrying, are they yours, are they not yours, and then the abuse becomes apparent. But the addiction is often already in place before that traffic stop occurs, before that discovery is made that somebody is using them illegally. What, as women, should we be doing to try to call attention to the circumstances that are happening in our households, and what steps can we take as really leaders and caretakers in our households to try to address this problem?
That is a great question, and one of the first step you can do is talk to the doctor. What we're finding is if someone goes in to have surgery, they maybe need 3 or 4 days worth of a painkiller, but they're being prescribed a 30-day. And by 30 days, oftentimes the person begins to become addicted to it. So talk to the doctor, ask questions. Don't just take the prescription, go and fill it, but really be informed. So that's the first step. Obviously, lock them up, keep them away from their children. I know that's easier said than done, but really try to focus on that, because what's happening with our younger people in the households, they're getting the opioids, they're getting addicted to it, and then if the opioids stop, they're then going to heroin. So we also have a huge...
They're related.
Exactly. Right. So we're having a huge heroin problem in this country as well. So that's the first things. And then with the bill that we passed on opioid addiction, there's going to be support out there, people to turn to that will give you the help that's needed. The bill passed the House and Senate, and it's on the President's desk for signature right now.
How about that? See, when we women put our minds to it, we can get things done.
You're absolutely right about that. 53% of the individuals in this country are women. We need women to get engaged in the process and help us, because when we do set our mind to it, we do accomplish it.
Now, Sarah, we were just talking about Melania Trump before you came on the show, and I wanted to get your take on this. I'm frustrated. She is a beautiful woman. She is not just a spokesmodel. She is extremely intelligent. She speaks many languages. She has an understanding of the operation of different governments and in comparison to the operation of the American form of government. I think she's going to be a wonderful partner for Donald Trump in the White House, and she may very well be a good carrier of his message and of the message of we the people into the international, the global stage, really, into international affairs in the diplomacy visits that she will likely do as First Lady. What about this abuse that she is suffering at the hands of the media right now?
So I was there last night. I got to watch her. Obviously, she is not a political figure. She has chosen to be in the background for most of this campaign. I think that's probably one of the reasons that Donald Trump flew in with her to give her the support. I thought she did a great job. She represented us well. And unfortunately, the media is focusing on 6 or 7 sentences when the entire speech was about a half an hour speech. So I think we need to focus on her message, what she did deliver, and the fact that Donald Trump does like intelligent women around him. I mean, that is one thing that is part of the media is missing. Certainly his wife, and actually his first wife, and certainly his daughters are very well-educated women who represent this country well.
Well, here's another take on this, too. I think when a woman is beautiful and smart and articulate and can do it in more than one language, maybe she's a little intimidating to the left.
Could very well be, because I think she can do it in 5 languages.
5 languages, There you go.
Yeah.
So she's maybe a little intimidating to the left, so I think what we need to do is support her, support Donald, and she needs to come back at the media. And I think not to engage on their messaging, but to engage on the messaging that her husband's putting forward in an articulate fashion and become part of this campaign. Just step up and take it.
I actually think, in a funny way, that he could step back and let his wife and his daughter drive his message and do the campaign, because they're great spokespeople for him.
They are. But she needs to come back strong. These people are bullies, and we should not tolerate it on the right at all. If any of the women on the left were attacked this way, there would be all kinds of cries for, stop bullying, stop being sexist, stop it. I mean, and from the right, we're a little quiet, we're a little defensive, we're a little protective. I think we just need to call a spade, move on, and certainly do not let them drive the narrative. When the left attacks you personally, it's because they have no message. And they can't argue with your message. So that's my take on it. But
they couldn't find anything else to criticize her on yesterday in the speech. She did a great speech, and she delivered it beautifully.
Terrific. So we have that leadership to look forward to if we're able to get over the hump with this election. And so tell us a little bit about how we can help you in your efforts with Main Street Republican and with the women-to-women discussions and conversation tour that you're doing.
Well, I'd love to have you contact us through our website, mainstreetadvocacy.com. Follow us on Facebook, and then sign up, and I will update you on where we're going to be. So maybe we'll be at a city near you. We'd love to have you come and join us.
I would love to join you.
Well, anytime. And then also, we'll keep you updated on the legislation and what's moving. So you get it unfiltered. I mean, and you get the facts, just exactly what's happening on the floor.
Wonderful. Well, we've been speaking this segment with Sarah Chamberlain from Republican Main Street, her women-to-women conversation tours, and she said Main Street Advocacy .com. MainStreetAdvocacy.com. So listeners, please tune in. Let's stand up as conservative women. Let's be who we are. Let's be vocal and articulate as we are. We don't need to defend Melania Trump. We just need to stay on our message. And Melania Trump needs to be delivering that message as far as I'm concerned. I think she did a wonderful job.
I agree with you.
Sarah Chamberlain, thank you for spending time with us on Conservative Commandos radio show. I hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Love to, anytime.
Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. Yeah, she did a wonderful job. I was just like, are we kidding? Are we talking about...
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio, and also the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNGC 1360 in Philly. John, did we lose Anna, or did we... Oh, okay, there we go. I think we got Anna back.
Rick, I'm still here, dear.
All right. I guess you just muted your mic there for a minute.
Yes, I muted the microphone to say goodbye to Sarah. Sorry about that.
No problem. And, this is live radio. This is the fun and excitement of live radio, so it is all good.
Having trouble hearing you again, and I really don't know what that's about. I'm going to turn my gain down.
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, it seems like when you get louder, you have a hard time hearing me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It might have to do with the input, because it's gotten louder here with the ambient noise. Anyway, listeners, thank you for bearing with us on location in Cleveland, Ohio. It is very exciting to be here at the site of the Republican National Convention. We have been having walk-up guests all day. It has been very exciting. The speeches last evening, really to die for. I've been trying in between guests to try to update you on what's been going on the floor. We are ramping up this evening for the actual nomination of Donald Trump. We're going to have Chris Christie speaking during that time with a number of other people. The schedule is packed, and we are going to be very, very excited to move onward with the messaging once that formality has been accomplished. We have been speaking also about the need for us to not allow the mainstream media to define our messaging during our convention cycle. This is the time for the Republican National Committee to make the messaging about the Trump administration, what the Trump administration will do. Remember, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were tied going into this. That means she's losing, as far as I'm concerned. And what the mainstream media has to do is they have to change the narrative and get us off message in order to try to pump up her numbers, because you know that they're supporting her, they're not supporting him. So at this point, what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that the Republican National Committee and those of us who are supporting the candidacy of Donald Trump and Mike Pence, we need to make sure that we stay on their messaging, that we keep their messaging out in the forefront. And I really am hoping that Melania Trump comes forward with the substantive conversations and just moves on. We do not need to be defending anything. She did nothing short of inspire everybody that heard her last evening. And the authenticity of this businessman turned presidential candidate and his authentic, true-to-life business lady that he's married to. I just think it's inspiring. It's very, very enlightening. It gives us hope going forward. And I believe they are so in tune with we the people that they are going to carry our voice to Washington, which is what we elect a president and a first lady to do. So, people, let's support her, but let's not be responding for her. Let's get back on the message of the Trump campaign. Make America great again. Make America safe again. And let's just go forward with the messaging. Rick, to you.
I agree with that, Anna. And I loved, again, I go back to what Patricia Smith said last night during her speech, that if we cannot trust Hillary Clinton to give us the truth, how can we trust her with the presidency? And I think back to 2008, the first time that she ran for president, that was against Barack Obama. And she ran a commercial that says, "Who do you trust to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning?" And I keep thinking of that commercial time and time again, Anna, and I think that answer, or that question, has been answered back in Benghazi, when Hillary Clinton was nowhere to be found. Barack Obama was nowhere to be found, where they let 4 Americans die.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. And I think that the answer to the question in the positive happened last evening when Melania Trump took the stage and delivered her speech. I would much rather have Melania Trump answer the telephone and sincerely relay a message to us that she is going to address the issue, rather than to have Hillary Clinton answer the telephone and say, "Stand down." And that is exactly the contrast that we saw last night. Melania Trump, her heart is on her sleeve. This woman, you see exactly what you get. What you see is what you get with her. What you hear in the authenticity of her articulate speeches, her intelligent speech, is exactly what you're getting. The honesty, the sincerity is palpable. And I want that on the other end of the phone. If I'm in trouble in Benghazi, Libya, and I'm calling for help, I do not want someone who's superior and who's trying to determine what the next calculated move might be for diplomacy and whether my life is expendable. And that's what you get with Hillary Clinton. And we cannot have that lady in the White House. We just can't. I'd much rather have Melania Trump.
I'd rather have Donald Trump, actually, in the White House answering that phone. Let Melania do what she does, but let's not, the idea of, I don't want another one of these co-presidencies there, Anna, the way we had with the Clintons. That was a disaster.
Well, I think Melania will do her job appropriately, but we were talking about who to answer the phone, and I'm comparing women to women because they're beating her up right now.
Well, I'm comparing a presidential candidate to presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump would be much more decisive in a time of action. Hillary Clinton. She was dead at the switch. She was nowhere to be found. I mean, her and Barack Obama made a terrific pair. I don't want either one of them near the telephone when it rings at 3 in the morning, when there's something going on like our consulate is being attacked.
Yep, well, that's true. I don't want Hillary Clinton near.
Hey, Anna, our friend Kevin Wade is not there with you today. He said there was a bit of a transportation problem. I'm also getting reports that there are demonstrations and near riots in Cleveland. Have you heard anything about that?
I've not heard anything about rioting. There have been demonstrations steadily. Black Lives Matter has been out on the streets. There are a few others that are talking about Black Lives Mattering, but they're doing so in a liturgical way, and they're quoting scripture. So I'm not entirely sure if they're affiliated with Black Lives Matter or not. I will tell you, transportation in the city of Cleveland has been very difficult. It is primarily pedestrian once you get inside the city limits, which I think is for security reasons. But, whenever there's a demonstration, they reroute our pedestrian route. What they've been doing is moving the barricades so that we are not near the demonstration. We're not crossing the streets near the demonstration. And that is in constant flux. So when you leave the premises of the convention hall, your route may be changed in order to get where you're going. The end result will be the same, but the maze through which you're walking will be altered to avoid the demonstration where it's located. And if it is not safe, they will not allow you. We did stand inside a barricade for 30 minutes yesterday until they determined that it was safe enough for us to cross the street at the end of that barricade. So they're being very cautious. There are bomb-sniffing dogs at every location, entering or exiting the property here near the convention hall, the Quicken Loans Arena. There are an equal number of bomb-sniffing dogs at the other facilities where events are taking place. So I feel very safe. But there's a lot of electricity in the air. It's a political event. It's a politically charged environment. We can thank Barack Obama for the violence that we've already experienced, and everybody's got it on their mind. Mm-hmm. So but I do believe the city of Cleveland. I've seen Indiana State Police here. I've seen Secret Service Police here. I've seen Ohio State Police here on the ground. There are crews of police officers on bicycles. There is a mounted police unit that has been patrolling the city. The police officers are not going out one-on-one. They are in pairs, sometimes 3 or 4 at a time. They walk the street as if they own it, and they are maintaining law and order. And I am thanking them every time I see a police officer. I'm thanking them for being here.
Well, and I have heard, I was speaking with J.D. Dombrowski, who does a show here as part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. He's out there in Cleveland. In fact, he was trying to find you. That seems to be what is going on there. Everybody is thanking the police in support of them, for the police helping to make this event in Cleveland a safe one. And one other piece of gossip or rumor that I've heard this morning, I wanted to see if you heard anything about it, that Donald Trump was considering Trey Gowdy as Attorney General or for Attorney General. Have you heard anything about that out there?
I have no specific information about that. I would not be shocked if that were the case. But let's see. I don't want to stir up information that I don't have specifically.
All right. Okay, Anna, we got about another 4 minutes. What else is going on or on your radar screen you want to get in the last few minutes?
Yeah, well, what I would like is for those of you who are listening and plugging into the Republican National Convention to remember that it is the messaging that counts. We went into this convention in a dead heat between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We need him to come out of this Republican National Convention cycle ahead, if possible, and that is really up to us. It's the buzz on social media. We had a fella on foramerica.org, David Bozell. He was telling us how to do that. The reason we had him on is because we have to maintain the message, and we can do that through the social media outlets. Your mainstream media reporters are all plugged in. They They put your tweets up on the television screen. They do the same thing with your Facebook posts and your email responses, your comments on their Facebook posts. So this is part of the conversation in the mainstream media. We need to make sure that our Republican messaging is out there and that Donald Trump comes out of this cycle ahead. And then we need to keep him there. My opinion.
I agree with that. It's time for people to unify, people on the right, Republicans. It's time for them to unify behind the candidate, which is Donald Trump. Like it or not, Donald Trump is the candidate. What is our alternative? Our alternative is Hillary Clinton, which I don't see as an alternative. I see that as a disaster.
Well, I can't stop mentioning Benghazi. If you want an example of what she's going to do in office, look at what she did in Benghazi. It resulted in the death of 4 Americans, including an ambassador who was a friend of hers. I mean, if she can't protect her friends, I don't know what to tell you.
Friends like that, you don't need enemies, that's for sure.
No, they're just as bad, if not worse.
Well, Anna, you have done a great job. Posting
it has been challenging at times out here.
Well, that's, again, live radio. I keep repeating it. There's nothing like live radio, but you have done a terrific job out there. You basically are doing it alone, since Kevin Wade didn't make it by this afternoon with his transportation problems. But, again, Anna, I want to thank you so much for doing such a great job for us and our listeners out at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. You'll be back tomorrow. Any idea who you'll be speaking with at that time?
Well, we expect to have someone from Heritage Foundation. They didn't make it by today, so we're hoping that they'll come by tomorrow, and then we'll see who walks up. All right.
I want to thank Mr. John Forsythe Jr. for working the boards, and again, I want to thank you. You've done a great job. You are a real trooper out there. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.